Hey, Matt, is that you?
Hi, Kate. How are you?
I'm good. Looks like we've got
Good.
3 attendees. We have
Wonderful.
eight people registered today, right?
I believe that's correct. You are recording right now, by the way.
Thanks. Let me pause. I'm the customer success manager here at TeacherMade, and this is TeacherMade 102 today. So if you haven't already, it's a follow-up on TeacherMade 101. Our first session was yesterday, which our teammate Jen hosted. She went through everything you need to know for creating your TeacherMade activities. And today I'm going to be going over everything that happens after that. So assigning the work to your students, what your students see, and then the whole grading process in itself. You don't need to have attended TeacherMade 101 to be here in today's session. But if you haven't already, I highly recommend either attending one of her sessions live, or I will be sending out a recording of it afterwards, which you can watch in your own time. I will also be sending out a recording of today's webinar that you are welcome to share with anybody in your school or anybody that you know who uses TeacherMade. In case they can't make it to one of our webinars live, they can watch it in their free time. And I will also be sending out the document that we're using today, so you all can do some practicing on your own. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. In the room with me today is my teammate, Matt. He is our product manager. I said beforehand, our Q&A is disabled, or sorry, our chat is disabled, but our Q&A is live. So if you all have any questions at any point or comments, go ahead and throw them into the Q&A. Matt will either answer them right then and there, or he will let me know that there's a question and we'll answer it live for you all. But please ask questions as you go. I am in the application every single day. So if I'm going too fast at any point, please let me know and I'm happy to slow down or go back and show you anything in more detail. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and you all should be able to see my screen now. Let me know if you can't. But like I said, I'm picking up right where Jen left off. So she went ahead and created an activity yesterday. We walked through all of the interactivities and how to make them. And she shared that activity with me, actually. So I am just going to open it up. And I'm going to come to my activity detail page, and we're going to start with creating an assignment. So this is the first step in it all. Once you've made your activities for your students and you are ready to share them, you're going to come to this activity detail page, and this is the button you're going to want to click, which is create an assignment. You'll notice as I go through today's training that I use these two words, activity and assignment, pretty differently. They are very similar words, but here at TeacherMade, they have two pretty different meanings. And if you know that, it'll just help you navigate the website a little bit better. Activity is anything that you're creating on your end, and like everything that Jen went over yesterday. The minute you actually take that work and you assign it to your students, it becomes an assignment. So right now, this is an activity. I haven't assigned it to any of my students. They can't see it, but we're walking through and we're making it an assignment now. So I'm going to choose create an assignment. There's 3 steps to creating an assignment. This is the first one, and this is how you choose how the assignment will be delivered to your students. It's really important to note that students will not have TeacherMade accounts. I'll say that one more time, no student accounts whatsoever with TeacherMade. So right here is how you're going to decide how you're going to deliver the assignment to your students. So if you use an LMS like Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology, we do offer integrations with all 3 of those LMSs. So if you use those, you can just choose one of those on this page and use that to assign it to your students. They will log into their own account to access the assignment. But if you don't use those, or you just don't want to use those, our default method of assigning is always just going to be via TeacherMade. And what that does is it generates a web link that your students will just access however you choose to share it with them. So that can be via email or any kind of chat system that you use. And they'll just log in using either their email address or just like a name, anything that they want there. For today's purposes, I am going to show you all how to deliver an assignment via Google Classroom. If you don't use Google Classroom, that's totally okay. The process looks very similar, if not the same, for all of the other methods. I'm just going to show you this one today, so I can show you what it looks like from the student side when they're in an LMS. So I'm going to choose next. Oh, on the screen too, you can choose your assignment name. It's this name right here is the assignment name that your students will see on their end. And so it's important that you just make sure it's what you want your students to see. It's also what you'll see on your My Activities page. So the default name for an assignment is going to be untitled activity. And if you don't want to have 30 untitled activities that you have to scroll through, always nice to just to name your assignment here. So I'll hit next. If I haven't done this before, this is my first time going through and assigning via Google Classroom. When I hit next on this page, a little window is going to pop up and it's going to ask me, it's going to be from Google Classroom, and it'll be asking me to give 3 permissions to TeacherMade. And it basically just means you're allowing TeacherMade to look inside Google Classroom, pull your course names, pull your student names so that we can assign it to them and then pass those activities back and forth. If you don't give us those 3 permissions, the integration won't work properly. It will be very obvious if you don't give us 3 permissions. There will be a nice big bar at the top of your screen letting you know that it's not integrated properly with a link that you can follow to support to get help on making sure that integration is working well. Like I said, it will always happen the first time that you do it, but that is launched from Google Classroom. And every once in a while, they might ask you to give us those 3 permissions again. We don't know why, we don't know when, it just happens randomly. I've been using TeacherMade for 3 years, and I think it's happened to me twice in those 3 years. So it doesn't happen frequently, but if it happens, just give us those 3 permissions and keep on going. So step 2 of creating an assignment is where we're actually going to get that sneak look into Google Classroom, where I can choose who to assign this work to. So you can choose, first of all, the individual courses that you would like to assign your work to. So if I just want to assign this one to my math classroom today, I'll just choose math, or I could choose all of my classes. And then you can choose to either assign it to all of your students in that class in your Google Classroom course, or you can choose to select individual students. So this is really nice if you have students who maybe are out on a field trip, so they're not in class that day, and you don't want them having access to a test early. You want them to be in the classroom for that test. You can choose to unselect them so that they won't actually be able to access their work that day. And then you can assign it to them when they're back in the classroom. This is also really nice if you have different students that you're differentiating the work for based on their different needs. You can kind of make separate assignments and assign all the work to your students separately without any of them really knowing, which is just nice. So you can differentiate your work and assign it to your particular students as you go. So for today, because Matt's in the room, I'm just going to assign it to Matt and myself. Lucky Matt. And then I'm going to hit next. And this is the 3rd stage of creating an assignment. So before I get onto this page, any questions, Matt?
Currently, no questions.
Okay, awesome. So this page is what I like to call the powerhouse cell of TeacherMade. It's a very cool page if you go through it, and you'll all learn to love it. This is kind of where everything in terms of auto grading lives within TeacherMade. So TeacherMade auto grades all of its activities as you go. But you as the teacher always have the power to decide how you want to use that auto grading power and when you want to use it, depending on what kind of activity or assignment it is. So this is the page where you'll make all of those decisions. TeacherMade will remember what you put into this page previously. So if you're always using the same settings, when you come to this page, you can just skim through it and hit save and keep on moving. But you will be shown this page every single time. So if you want to change it, whether it's a homework assignment or a test, you can always change your settings here. I'm going to go through them pretty slowly today, but please interrupt if you have a question. So the first 3 settings all have to do with Google Classroom and how the grades will be passed back and forth. So the first option is whether or not you'd like to save this assignment as a draft, or if you want to publish it right now. So if you're a teacher who likes to prep all of your work a couple weeks in advance and you don't want your students having access to it yet, but you want it to be ready to go, this is your favorite tool here. You're going to hit saved as a draft, and it will be saved in your TeacherMade activity. All of this information will be saved. And when it's ready to publish, you'll be able to just publish it to your students' Google Classroom in just a couple of clicks. Or if your students are about to walk in the door and you are ready for them to have their work, you can choose published right now, and it will go straight into the Google Classroom account, which is what we're going to do today. This next option is whether or not you want scores to automatically be synced to your Google Classroom gradebook. So that means that when you return the work to your students after you've seen what they submitted, you've gone through, made sure it's all good to go, and you're ready to return the work back to them to see their graded work, do you want those scores to automatically get synced to your grade book? So I always suggest just putting yes here. It means there's one less button for you to click on the other end. And that just means that no matter what you do to the scores, if you edit them after the fact, give bonus points, all the scores will constantly be updated. If you choose no, there's just going to be a little button that says sync to Google Classroom. It's not a huge deal, but I just always suggest that hitting yes here. And then lastly, the points for Google Classroom. So right now, this is showing me that this TeacherMade activity is worth 25 points. So it would show up in Google Classroom to be out of 25 points. But let's say you have your grade book on a certain scale. You want all of your tests to be a certain worth a certain number of points. Your exams worth something, your homework's worth something. This is where you can make sure that your grade book all stays nice and pretty to your liking. So you can choose to have TeacherMade scale the 25 points to a different point value here. So this right now is telling me that I want TeacherMade to take these 25 possible points and scale them to be out of 100 instead. So when the grades go into my grade book, they'll be out of 100. So that's a nice option to have as well. So now we'll go through these general settings. And so the first one is whether or not you want to disable that submit button on your student side. So this came in actually from some of our elementary school teachers. Some of their little ones just didn't really know what the submit button meant. They were a little click happy. So we gave them the option to disable the submit button, meaning that they'll just have the ability to go through, fill out their work, and they won't actually have the option to submit. So you won't constantly have to be reopening that work for your students. And from the teacher perspective, you'll be able to kind of force turn in all of that work at one time. This is also really helpful if you have a project that you want your students taking the entire week working on while they're in the classroom, or even something you just want them taking the whole class period to work on. You can choose to disable that submit button, and you can have them turn it in whenever you're ready for it to be turned in. This next feature is a really awesome feature we added earlier this year from tons of teacher feedback. I know Jen mentioned this in her webinar, but everything we've really built has come from a teacher's mind. We listen to you and we want to hear from you because you all give great ideas because you're using TeacherMade every day. So as you're using it, please send your feedback our way. But this was one of our best ones that came from some teachers, and that's that students can check their answers. So what this means is that as your students are working on their activity, they can actually choose to check their answers before they submit their work. And TeacherMade will tell them what questions they got wrong, as well as what questions they just haven't answered yet. So if it's a really long activity and they want to make sure that they just got every single answer done, they can check their answers and it will tell them if they forgot to do any. So you can choose to either not allow them to check their answers. If it's some kind of test, you can give them 1 try, 2 tries, or an unlimited number of tries. So it's up to you as the teacher how many times they can check their answers. I'm going to choose 2 times today, and I'll show you what that looks like from the student perspective in just a little bit. This next option is just how you want the score displayed to your students. This is totally teacher preference here. There are 4 different ways that you can show the score to your students. Let's say they got an 8 out of 10 on an activity. Points earned would just show them the 8. Points earned out of points possible would show 8 out of 10. This one would show 8 out of 10, 80%, and percentage would just show 80%. Again, totally teacher preference there, what you want to show your students. After submission, so this means that as soon as your students hit submit, like we said earlier, TeacherMade auto grades all of your student work. So as they're working, the grades are there already. It's already been graded by TeacherMade, but you get to decide when they see their grades and what they see. So that's right here with this selection. So as soon as they hit submit, you can choose. The first option is to make the assignment hidden. So this is replicating as if your students are finishing up a test, walking to the front of the classroom, handing in their test. They can no longer see it. They don't know what they got on it. Out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And Jen tells the story a lot about one of her classes that she had. She would teach first period, she would give a test. And then by, 6th or 7th period, her students were getting 100% on the tests because kids are sneaky. They were sharing pictures of the assignments or just answers here and there. I'm sure you all have had those students before. So this is your option to make the assignment hidden. They won't see anything until you return it to them. You can choose to just show them the total score. So they'll see the activity, they'll see all their answers that they put in, and then they'll see their total score. So they'll see that 8 out of 10. you can choose to show them that total score as well as the score on individual items. So they'll see what they got right and what they got wrong. And then you can even go as far as to show them their total score, the score on individual items, and then what that correct answer should have been. So this is our most information that you can give is this last option. It really utilizes that like immense power that comes with TeacherMade's automatic feedback. This is kind of using it to its biggest ability. It's really nice for homework assignments or in-class activities for your students to see, their feedback immediately. And if they, at that point, like they still remember, oh, number 2 was really hard. I wonder if I got that one right. Let me go look at it. And they see if they got it right, if they got it wrong, they can come up to you right then and there to ask for help instead of getting it back in 2 weeks when they forgot what the test was even about, So I'll show you what that one looks like from the student perspective. And then lastly, when work is returned. So this is when you've finished doing all your grading, you're passing it back out to your students, grades are in the grade book. When the work is returned, what do you want them to see? So again, it's that total score, score on individual items, and then the correct answers as well. This one came about because of our good old friend ChatGPT. So you as teachers can now allow or prevent your students to be able to copy and paste text. This was a big feature about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, big feature request from teachers. So we just gave you all the ability to prevent copy and paste for your students, depending on what kind of activity it is. And then lastly, these are all of the student tools that we offer. This is, your students have a pretty extensive toolbar that they can use as they are completing their activities. And this is where you as the teacher can decide which tools they have access to while they're completing their work. If you leave all of these checked, they'll have access to all of them. But if you uncheck some of them, for example, if you're giving an RLA exam and you don't want them to have math tools, it can just be distracting. You can unclick our math tools and they won't show up for your students, or you can just leave them all checked. So any questions before I hit save and move on to the next page?
No, we're all clear.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And when I do, TeacherMade is turning this activity into an assignment. So once it loads, you're going to see this new page, assignment detail page. So you'll notice before it was activity detail page, now it's assignment detail page. And although all of your students will go to Google Classroom now to access their work, you as the teacher are going to live right here in this assignment detail page. So this is where you're going to come to see your student submissions start to come in. You can watch your students work live. This is where you're going to live to do everything, even though the grades and everything else is going to be in Google Classroom. So let's walk through this page a little bit. Submissions. So this is where students' results will start to appear as soon as they start the assignment. So it'll kind of be a bird's eye view. I'll show you in a little bit, but you'll start to see your students as soon as they open up the assignment, their name will appear here for you to see their work as they're working live. You'll see Matt just started. So I already see right here that he started, he's in progress. Obviously his score is 0 because he just started, and I can watch my student. And this little green bubble tells me that he's currently on the activity working. So I'll show you some more of that in a little bit. But what I'm going to do now actually is I'm going to put on my student hat for a minute, and I'm going to go open up the assignment myself as a student so that I can show you all what it looks like. So let's go to my student stream. Yep, this is the right one. And as you can see here, I am now a student in Google Classroom, and I see here that Kate Howie posted a new assignment via TeacherMade. I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to see, once it loads, a nice little link for me to click on. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to open me into TeacherMade, and I'll be prompted to begin with Google. So I'll just hit my usual login, and TeacherMade will be opened up just like that. So that's the login process for your students. So it should be a pretty familiar process for them, logging in with their normal Google login. So hopefully that's one last time you'll have to be asked to help them remember a password or reset their password. So now I'm going to go through, I know Jen went through answering questions on her end, but I'm just going to answer a few for grading purposes so I can show you all what it looks like. So we'll just answer a few. This is our drop down. We'll go to the next page. This is our open answer. Do some matching. Okay, so Now let's take a look at our toolbar. So this is the student toolbar. Like I said before, it's pretty extensive and I'll show you all what they can do with it. The first option that students have is they have a text box. So this is kind of their way to communicate with you as they are doing their work. I'm actually going to return to the first page. And this is how your students can leave any kind of feedback for you as the teacher as they're working. I'm sure we've all had those those students who like to write all over the margins exactly how they're feeling about an activity while they're working. And this is their way to still be able to do that with you. So they can just click on the text box, draw a text box onto their activity, and then they can leave feedback. So I could say, this one was hard for me, and leave that for my teacher to see. And as soon as that goes onto the activity, you as the teacher can see that comment live if you're watching your students work live. You don't have to wait until they hit submit to see that. This next tool is our math text box tool. It's the exact same math equation editor that you as the teacher have access to while you are creating the activities. So if I click on this and I come onto my activity and I draw, it kind of creates this math text box. The equation editor pops up for me. I have access to all 3 of the tabs of the equation editor to enter in my work. So it's a way for your students to be able to show their work for any math or science, any kind of STEM question type as they're working. They won't have to draw all over a napkin and take a picture and send it to you. They can just show their work here. I do want to point out that it does not go line by line. So if your students hit enter, it won't allow them to continue showing their work. So if they need to show multiple lines of work, they'll just need to draw multiple, multiple math text boxes in a row. So they can just do that and keep on showing their work. This next option is our images tool. So students can upload any images from their computer or from their camera that they can just use to kind of support their findings, or if you want them to just upload anything. If you're coming back from summer and you're having them, write a little thing about what they did over the summer, they can include some images in their little write-up as well, which is just fun. There is an audio tool, works very similarly to the audio tool that you have as the teacher. So if I click on this as a student, this little pop-up will open up. They'll hit the red button to begin recording. It records for up to 2 minutes. And then when they're done, they can hit pause. They can listen to their recording, make sure that they're happy with it. And then when they're done, they can hit save and close, and it just automatically gets populated onto the TeacherMade activity. You can see it came up here, and then I can drag it into place on the activity for my teacher to listen to. This is really nice if you are a ELL teacher or just any kind of language teacher and you want your students to kind of practice pronunciation of anything, or if you want them practicing giving a speech or anything like that. Just kind of fun that your students can have that audio tool to be able to speak with you as they're working. Hyperlink tool just allows them to add any hyperlink to their activity. It comes up like a text box. They can enter in their link and some text about what it's about. So really great if you're teaching them how to maybe research using the internet and you want them to attach the article that they found to support their findings, or if this was maybe an essay planner document and you have your students typing up their final essays in a Google Doc, you can have them link out to that Google Doc using the hyperlink tool. And then we have a bunch of annotating tools. So they have a square that they can use and a circle tool that they can use to make diagrams. There's a nice underlining tool if you're teaching from TeacherMade that they can use to underline important things. We have that highlighter tool so they can highlight as they are reading. And then we've got the pencil tool, eraser tool. They can choose colors and size and everything else like that. They also do have the option always right here for the question mark tool. So you can go through and teach your students how to use TeacherMade, but if at any point your students forget, just always remind them that they have this question mark tool. It's our help tool. We have 2 short videos. There's one on how to enter your answers, and then there's always one on how to use the tools themselves. So if they're ever completing something and they have a question, we have those help tools for them. So I'm actually going to return to being a teacher now. So I'll go back to my TeacherMade account, and you'll see here that it now shows me that I have 2 students who have submitted who are working on the submission. So it's Matt and myself. And this is kind of that bird's eye view I was talking about. I'll see my student's name. I'll see whether or not they're working on it. So Matt has submitted his work. He's stopped using the activity. And you can see here that his bubble is now white because he's done using the activity. And then you'll see that mine is green because it's showing that I am currently still working on it. So this is just a nice way to kind of hop in and like see which of your students are working and which of them aren't. And so now I'm going to actually hop into my activity as the student, and I'm going to click on my name. Each of those student names are hyperlinked, so you can always kind of hop into them and see how your students are working. And like I said before, this is green, so this student is working on it live, and I can go in and see how they're doing. So I see that text box that my student put on saying that this one was hard for me. I see their answers that they've put in so far. From my side, I'm seeing whether or not they've gotten the questions correct or if they've gotten them wrong. So I see if it's green if it was correct, and I see it's red if it was wrong. I see the answers that they've put in. So you can really see everything as they're working, which is just nice as the teacher because you can see exactly what they're doing, whether they're right in front of you in the classroom working or if they're at home doing their homework, you can always see what they're doing. As they're working, you can give instant feedback as well. So I could add text here. If I come in and I see that my student says this one is hard for me, I could leave a text box and say, check out yesterday's class notes. Just as a little hint so that they can know that they're doing great and they can keep on going. I can leave a little sticker for them to see, just saying, some clapping emoji saying, you're doing great, you got this, just that positive reinforcement as they're working, letting them know that I'm here for them as they're going. So now if I hop back into being a student one more time, put back on my student hat, I am going to see here right away that teacher feedback is already there for me. I see the clapping emojis. I see that hint saying, check out yesterday's class notes. So now I can go through, I'm going through this. All right, I'm feeling more confident. I think it's all good to go. So just really nice that regardless of where you are, regardless of where your students are, you can give that instant feedback. You can watch them working, and then that way you don't kind of have to go hover over their shoulders and maybe make them nervous as they're working. You can kind of watch them right from your desk. And then if you think someone needs feedback as they're working live, you can choose to go up to them to their desk at that point. So now I'm going to show you all that check my answers tool. So you'll see right here that if you remember, as we were creating this assignment, there was the option to check my answers, and we allowed for our students to check their answers twice. So I'm going to choose check my answers now to show you all what that looks like. I'll be prompted to say, are you sure you want to do this? I'll hit yes. And up here in the top right corner is where your students are going to get that feedback. So I'm going to see that I have 18 missing or incorrect questions. And when I click on the little arrow, it will pop to that first one that's missing or incorrect. So this will tell me it's really, really obvious that I need to answer this one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to answer it. Once I do, it shows me that I have 16 missing or incorrect. So now I'll go to the next one and it'll keep on flashing as I go. So let's get past this one. It'll take me to my next question set that I have wrong. So it makes it really obvious for your students. It's very hard for them to miss which ones they got right and which ones they got wrong based on this one. And then once you've used one of your check my answers, it automatically does update, letting you know how many you have left. So if you gave them that unlimited, this little countdown won't be there. It'll just say check my answers. But since we only gave them 2 times, it does show me now that I only have 1 chance left. Now I can choose to either submit or I can choose to finish later. So if your students still need to work on it and later on, they can choose to finish later, or they can hit submit right here. So I'm actually going to hit submit. And once I do, or before I do, remember that we chose to give the most amount of feedback. So we chose that our students are going to be able to see everything, their score, what they got right, what they got wrong. So I'm going to hit submit. I'll be prompted to say now, because I checked my answers, that I still have 2 incorrect and 14 missing. But yes, I'm sure I'd like to submit. Right away, they'll get that confirmation that the activity was successfully submitted. So you can tell your students that if they don't see that little scrolling bar, then they don't know. But I'll see my score right here. I got a 35%. And if I click through the activity, I can see what I got right and what I got wrong. And if I click on the ones that I got wrong, it'll actually show me what the correct answer should have been. So there's lots of ways for you as the student to go through and see that instant feedback. If we click through to our open answer, which is our only one that's not auto graded, it's assistive graded, it'll be highlighted in purple, which is telling your students that this is a question that still needs to be graded by the teacher. So if I click on it, it's going to show that it's teacher scored, it's worth 5 points, but my teacher hasn't scored this one yet. So I'll show you all what that looks like from the teacher perspective. But it is just good to know that green is right, red is wrong, and purple means it still needs to be scored for the student's perspective. All right, I'm going to go back to being a teacher. And before I get into this some more, any questions?
We did have one question, and I'll first give everybody instructions on how to ask questions here too, because I noticed that Zoom is hiding the toolbar when you're sharing your screen. I know. So all you have to do is move your mouse over the shared screen, and the toolbar will reappear. And at the bottom of the screen, you should see Q&A icon. Click on that icon, and you'll get a box to type into and ask a question. I'll either answer the question immediately or reserve it for Kate to answer as she's presenting, which I've done here. So we have a question here. If I mess up when filling out answers or want to add a correct answer later, if I edit it after students start, will it fix the score after they start?
Great question. And I was actually just going to show that because if you notice, when I graded that student work, I noticed that one of the first questions, I set the wrong correct answer. So I'm actually going to show you how to do that right now. The answer is yes, you can, and it automatically does update all of those scores. So before we do, I'm assuming Matt got the question correct, but it was marked incorrect while he did it. So right now he has an 18 out of 20 and I have a 7 out of 20. So let's keep an eye on that. And I'm actually going to choose this button where it says edit answer key. So answer key is kind of what we use to describe the answers that you're putting in to the activity as you're creating it. It's what TeacherMade uses to grade all of the activities. So we're just kind of call it the answer key. And this is where you come to do it. So I'm in that assignment detail page and I'm going to choose edit answer key. What it's going to do is it's going to open up our answer key mode. This is the kind of mode of that editor. It's a bit more limited as to what you can do in it, but there are certain things you can do. If you're curious, you can always hit this more button and there's very detailed instructions, but pretty much you can change point values. You can add incorrect answers, remove answers, things like that. You just can't create new items. You can't remove items and you can't change like the number of elements in a multiple choice or a drop down, things like that. But everything else you kind of can do. So the one that I had set incorrectly was this first one, the short answer. I said the plural form of boy was just boy. So I'm actually going to click this. I'm going to choose edit and I'll type in boys. Like you asked, I could add in multiple correct answers if I wanted to. So I could choose to, add a lowercase version of boys, whatever I wanted to do there. So really nice, especially for like those math question types or things like maybe the capital of a state where your students might have multiple ways of saying a capital, like, the capital is, or things like that. You can add multiple answers. So I'll hit save changes. And once I do, I'll see that it's saved up here in TeacherMade. And if we exit out of this answer key mode now, and we get back to the activity, you're now going to see that Matt has that 19 out of 20, and I have that 8 out of 20. So it automatically updates all of your scores right then and there. And remember beforehand when we said that we were going to auto sync all those grades in Google Classroom, since we said yes to that, if these grades were already in the grade book, it would also automatically auto sync all those scores in the grade book as well. So just nice that you don't have to go through and fix, because we're all human here. We all make mistakes. It's going to happen where you're going to make mistakes on the answer key, but you don't have to spend, 20 minutes going through and adjusting every single student's activity. You can just go through and you can make that edit right then and there. Any questions before I keep on going?
We're clear right now.
Okay. So we've hit submit and we're done now. And my students' work is all in. And now I'm going to show you all what some of that grading looks like. Sorry, I should have explained that. I just kind of pressed the button. This right here is what's going to tell you that you need to resolve the external scores. So that's kind of, we just updated some of the scores in our activity, and the activity has been changed. And it's just asking, do you want to resolve those external scores, being those scores in Google Classroom? So I would just click to select the items to sync if I wanted to, or I could choose not to sync the assignment. So that's up to you. So I'm going to actually hop in right here to my activity. Again, all of the students' names are hyperlinked. You can see their score here as well as their submission date. I'm going to choose my name. And on this page right here, I'm going to draw your attention over to the left-hand side. This is kind of where you're going to live as you're doing all things grading. And I say the term grading kind of loosely. TeacherMade does auto grade everything. Obviously, a final score is here for you to see. You can always just choose to accept the final score and return the work to your students. But we always do suggest that you come through and you take a look at your students' work and, give some feedback here and there and make sure you're happy with the score before you return it. So on this left-hand side, you're going to see your student's name, the email they use to log in. You're going to see the time spent on task. And there also is this kind of detailed history you can pull up as well, which just kind of shows, when TeacherMade saved, like what timeline they were working on, what was their percentage as they were working. You can kind of see them how they were working live. And this feature is really nice. It kind of is a way that TeacherMade just has your back in all things teaching. So really nice to use for parent-teacher conferences, or if a parent has a question about a particular assignment and why their student did the way they did. Nice for administration to see this as well, but just always good for you to kind of have this information in your back pocket. Also really nice if you see, you send a student home with the homework that should have taken them 20 minutes and they show a 2 hours on task, and you want to ask them, did it take you 2 hours because it was really hard and you didn't understand the work, or did it take you 2 hours because maybe you were watching TV while you were doing it, so you weren't super focused? So just nice for you to be able to really kind of have that extra information of how your students are doing on it. And then we have our score type. So there are 3 different score types you can choose from as the teacher. The first one is just plain and simple, the auto score. So this is accepting the full auto score, that 8 out of 20. You're happy with it, you can move on. The next option is an auto score and teacher. This is really nice if you are, grading something that's not a item type. So maybe like a student's audio. It's not an auto graded activity, but if you want to grade their audio, you could add extra points here. You could add bonus points, anything like that. Once you add in the points, you'll see they automatically get added into that final score and updates the percentage as well. Or you can choose to completely override that auto score and give a custom teacher score. So this is really nice if maybe you're giving an activity that is just for completion. And so you want your students to get that instant feedback. You want them to see how they did. But when it's time for the grades to go into the grade book, you don't want them to see their auto score. You just want to give them full credit because they completed their work. You can give them that 10 out of 10. So these are your 3 different scores. You can always choose. And that's also by individual student assignment. So you can base it on each student as you're working. Those are the 3 main overall scores, but you do have some things that you can do with each individual question as well. So let's check out these questions right now. So let's see, this student got this question wrong. You'll see it's highlighted in red. If I click into that student's work, I'm going to see that it's worth 0 out of 1 points, but I do have the option to set the score. So let's say that they, gave a answer that was close to the correct answer, but not quite the same answer, or if it was actually correct and it was just marked incorrectly, like maybe they had a slight misspelling or they added in an extra word that I hadn't accounted for in my correct answer in that answer key, I can always choose to override any score that was marked as incorrect. So if I choose set score, I can choose to just give them that 1 out of 1 if I want, hit save, it'll update here, and it'll also update that auto score. You can also give partial credit. So I could give them half a point and I could hit save. It'll update again over here on the left-hand side. You can give, any decimal that you want. I could give 1/4 of a point if I wanted to, and I could save that there. Only thing you can't do is go higher than what the question was worth. So since it was worth 1 point, if I tried to give them 1.5 points, it wouldn't allow me to do that there. So that is giving partial credit. And now I want to show you all that open answer. Like I said beforehand, open answer is the one question type that is not auto-graded, but you do have the option to give a grade. So Jen showed this on her presentation yesterday in TeacherMade 101, but as you're adding an open answer to an activity, there is an option to assign a point value to that open answer. She assigned it to be worth 5 points yesterday. So this purple outline in the box is telling me as the teacher that this question type still needs some action for me. It still needs to be graded. If I click into it, you're going to see over here that it says teacher scored, and it has the option to set my score. So I can go through, I can grade my students' work. I could leave feedback using a text box. I could draw on it if I wanted to, underline certain things. And then when I'm ready to score, I can click on it and choose set score, and I can give them any point value. So right now I have an 8.25 out of 20 in the auto score. If you look over to the left, let's say this is a great answer. Once upon a time is exactly what the water cycle is. So I'm going to give them 5 points. I'll hit save, and it'll automatically light up to green because it's now been graded. And I'll see over here that it now becomes 13.25 out of 25. So it also adds on to the points possible. This assignment was out of 20 before, and now it's out of 25. Again, you can give partial credit here. I could give them a 3 out of 5. Again, only thing I can't do, if I try to give them a 6 out of 5, it will tell me that I have to enter less than that. So just give whatever it was worth and hit save. So that's how you grade each individual assignment. You can scroll through, leave feedback, make sure you're happy with everything. And then over here in the top, you can actually click through to all of your students' work very quickly. Obviously, for this activity, there was only 2 of us working on it, but you can imagine for a full class period where you have anywhere from 15 to 30 students, you could have a lot of assignments to go through, and you can use these little arrows to kind of toggle between students and quickly click back and forth and do your grading. So I could click to the left and I could go into Matt's activity now. It does keep you on that same page that you were just on. So I was grading Kate's work on page 2. So let's say this is a really easy way for me to go through and grade all of my open answer questions and just set my points and keep on going. There's also that drop-down menu. So you can always, this is like another way to see everything from a bird's eye view and quickly click back and forth between them, find a student you want to go grade, that whether or not they're live on the activity is still there for you to see. So you can see who's working on it and leave feedback for them live, or see who's already done with their work and start grading the work while some students are still working on it. Any questions?
No, we currently don't have any questions.
Okay, awesome. So there are a few more things I did want to show on this page before I get to some newer features that we have. So I'm going to go through them. They're just some smaller features, not necessarily smaller, just features that are a bit more hidden that I'm not sure all teachers know are there, but that are extremely helpful if you know to look for them. So we're going to walk through those now. The first option is whether or not you want to have the assignment locked or unlocked. Right now it's unlocked, which pretty much means if you hover over this, it's going to tell you, but it means that an unlocked activity means that your students can open up new assignments. They can go in and go back into their work if they haven't submitted it yet. It's live. They're able to go in and do everything they're able to do in an assignment. If you choose to lock an assignment at any point, what that means is that no students can open up. They can't start new work. They can't go back in and edit any of their previous work. They can't do anything really to their work. It's locked, it's done for pretty much. So this is really helpful if you have, you're giving a test that's going to take 2 class periods for your students to complete. And you get to the end of one class period and you want all of your students to stop working and wait till the next class period to continue working. You can just very easily come into the assignment, choose locked, and they won't be able to access it. And then tomorrow, when they come back into the classroom, you can unlock the assignment and your students will be able to continue working. So that's just a really easy way to kind of control when and where your students can do their work. Underneath of this, these little 3 dots right here, you have some great options. You have the option to go in and give that edit of the assignment. Again, you can lock the assignment here, that option to rescore the assignment. So if at any point you want to go in and you want to go in, and this would take you through a whole process of rescoring the assignment. There is the option to edit student names. If you have some goofballs who like to enter in some wild names instead of their real names, you can edit them. And then you can choose to print the activity itself as well as print the answer key. So printing the activity would print a blank copy of the activity. If you have some students who would prefer to do a paper activity after you've gone through and done everything, they can get a blank copy of the printed out activity. Obviously, the interactions will not work on paper because they're digital interactions, but there will be that paper worksheet for your students, paper activity for your students to go through. There's also the option to print the answer key. So if you just want to have a record of the answer key either on your computer, or if you want to actually print it out, it'll prompt you to take this through, save it as a PDF, and then you can print it to your computer. Just nice for you to have for your records, although everything does always remain in TeacherMade and lives here until the day you decide to delete it. And even then we can usually recover it. So you don't really have to worry about having backup copies anymore, but if you want to, we get it. You have the option to print that answer key. And then lastly, you can archive this assignment. So within each activity, you can create multiple assignments. So let's say I have one activity, it's a bell ringer, and I want all of my class periods today to have that bell ringer. I would create multiple assignments for each of my classes to just kind of keep them separated by class. And then I can choose to archive the assignment at any point. That basically just means like tuck it away from view. I'll show you how I do it actually in a minute. It's just really nice, a nice way to kind of clean up your TeacherMade between school years. So this school year just ended. You all could go through on all of your TeacherMade activities from this year and archive all of those assignments from this year's students. They would be kept off kind of to the side where you wouldn't see them. And then you would be able to assign the activity to your students coming in for next school year. So now that I've finished grading, I'm going to show you all some other tools that we have. And the first one is going to be actually returning this work to my students. So right now it's been submitted, I've gone through, I've graded it, but as of right now, my students can't actually see their grades yet because I haven't returned the work to them, can't see their grades in their grade book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this box to highlight all of my students. I'm going to come over here to these three dots, and I'm going to choose return selected. So when you choose this option, look at the statuses of your students. When I choose return selected, I confirm it. All of my students' work is automatically going to be returned to them. So you can say goodbye to those days of spending way too long in a class period passing out graded assignments to your students. You can return all your work to them in just a few minutes. You can also choose to return your work individually, which you can do while you're in that work live, but it's really nice and easy to just return it all at once. And when you do that, the grades also do go straight into my grade book. So if I go into my Google Classroom account as a teacher and I hop into this assignment, I'm going to see here, forgive me, I don't use Google Classroom very frequently, so it takes me a minute, but you'll see here that my grades are here now. So I see both Kate and Matt's grades of what they've done so far. In these little three dots, there are some other options. You have that review all function, like we just went through. It's how you click through between students. I'm going to show you the item analysis in a minute because it's very cool. You have the option to reopen or reset work. So reopening and resetting. Reopening means that you want to give your students, allow your students to pick back up exactly where they left off. So if a student accidentally hit submit, or if you have a student who maybe got a 19 out of 20 and they're begging you to let them redo it because they want to get that 20 out of 20, you can reopen it where all of their previous work is there for them to see it. And they can just go in and redo that one question that they got wrong. Or you can choose to completely reset it, which will essentially clear out all of their work and will give them an entire blank copy of the activity for them to go ahead and try it all over again. So that's really nice if it's a study guide and you want them to, do it a couple of times before a test or anything like that. You can always choose to have those options. You can choose to set selected as completed. This is that option to kind of force turn in the work that I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar. This is great, if you have students who maybe, at the end of class, they were finishing up something, they worked through the bell, they had to run to their next class. They just closed their computers right away and ran out of the class, forgot to hit submit. You don't need to chase them through the school hallways, finding them to get them to submit their work. You can just very quickly choose set selected as completed, and it will force turn in all of their work so that you don't have to go find them. Same thing if you have some students who maybe are just taking way too long to submit an assignment, you can just set it as selected for, or set it as completed for them, kind of force submit so they don't even have the option to continue working on it. You can undo the return at any point. If you want to do some more grading, you can always do that. You can export your scores to a CSV, which is just nice if, again, if you want to have that data, or if somebody else needs to see the data of how students did on a particular assignment, you can do so with a CSV. And then you can also print individual student submissions. You can print them here, and you can also print them when you're in the student submission itself. If someone at home wants to see a printed out version of their student's work, you can send them home with a printed version still. So that's pretty much it for this page. I do want to show you all the item analysis, but any questions before I get there?
No, we have no unanswered questions right now.
Awesome. So I'm going to go to another activity that has a few more assignments, actually, so I can show you all what that item analysis looks like. So this is an activity that I assigned via TeacherMade with just some student names. If I click into it, you'll see here that I have 6 students working in it, 5 students working in it. Again, that in progress, that's submitted. And I'm going to show you all our item analysis. So this is a newer feature. It's kind of our first feature as we enter into providing some more data within TeacherMade. And if I click up here in the top right and I choose item analysis, what it does is it automatically has this chart available for me. And TeacherMade has this chart generated for every single assignment. The minute your students start working on it, it's always there. You don't need to do any of the work to get this generated for you. It always exists. And if we walk through what it does, it has quite a bit of information in it. The first thing it has is it has all of your students' names over here on the left, and then it has each of the questions up here on the right for you to look at. There's little icons that tell you what the question was. As you can see, 1 was a short answer, 5 was a drop down as you hover over them. It shows you the % correct for each of the questions, so how your students did. And if you click into them, it actually also shows you the discrimination index, and then it shows you the student responses. So what was, which responses, were given or chosen by your students. So that's just really nice to see what your students thought the correct answer should have been or what they put down. And then if you look into each of the charts, it's green if your student got it correct. The boxes will be red if they got them wrong. And each of the cells will show you the point value that your students received, which is also nice. If you give any kind of partial credit, you can see it here. And this kind of view is just really helpful for you to see as the teacher. If you're kind of deciding what questions you're going to go over in class after your students work on a test or any kind of activity. Obviously, for this one, I would probably want to go over number 2 and number 9 in class because everybody got them wrong. But then let's say Jen got number 12 wrong, but everybody else got it right, and I want to see why. I might want to go up to her and ask her why she got that one wrong. But then the coolest thing about this is that each of these cells is actually hyperlinked. So if I want to see why Jen got number 12 wrong, instead of having to navigate back to the assignment, find her name, find the question, all I have to do is click on this cell. It takes me right into Jen's activity, and it flashes right there for me to see which question Jen got wrong. So it's very easy for you to kind of go in and see how your students did and kind of choose to remediate how you would like to. This item analysis does live over here in the left-hand side as well. So this is me reviewing all of my students' work. Like we said before, you can click through them as you're grading. And over here on the left-hand side, you're always going to see that option for the item analysis as you're grading. So I can click on item analysis. It'll take me right back to here. I can see why Maxine got number 6 wrong by clicking on that. I can go to it, give feedback, and then I can return right to my item analysis. So just some really helpful data that you have access to as a teacher as you're doing your grading. And then last thing, this is that activity detail page I was talking about. It's a little confusing to describe, so it's easier to show it. This is that activity that has one assignment already in it. Let's say this was for my first period class. I want to keep all of my students separate. I can choose to create a second assignment, take you through all of those steps that we went through in the beginning to assign to my second period class. And it would kind of list each of the assignments right here underneath of this activity for me to see. So just really nice and easy for me to be able to keep track of all of my students. And then if I ever want to archive this assignment, if I archive it, it does clear it out from my view. So now I have a blank page for me to do. So just a nice way to clear up your work at the end of a school year and make room for those new students coming in. But archived means it's always here. I can see my student work still that's been archived, and I can always choose to restore it if I would like to. And that is all that I have for today. So we've got about 5 minutes left, so plenty of time for questions. So I'm going to open up the Q&A for some questions, and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. We can just give it a couple minutes, Matt, and see if anybody comes in. And if not, we can end it a couple minutes early.
Great. And just a quick reminder, just move your mouse over the screen to bring the Zoom toolbar up and click the Q&A icon at the bottom if you want to ask a question.
Yep. I can stop my share now too for a second, just in case. Okay, well, in the meantime, I am going to send out a recording of today's webinar. I'm actually going to pause the recording before I forget.